Question now is that the amendments be agreed to. I call the member for Chifley.
Deputy Speaker, what many people may not appreciate is that our central bank, the RBA, not only keeps a close watch on housing affordability, but they also maintain a watching brief on a diverse range of factors affecting it, factors such as infrastructure planning and the way it affects movement of people in our cities. And in the space of the last year, senior RBA officials Philip Lowe and Lucy Ellis have given speeches with some considerable insight into RBA analysis in this area. And starting with the speech by Lucy Ellis, we see a focus on the proximity of where people work to where they live, viewed across state capitals. Sitting within that speech is the observation survey data suggests that the average commute times have risen since 2006 in at least some cities. No surprise, the RBA warned the Howard government that infrastructure blockages would generate capacity constraints within the economy. They did little about this, and we've been playing catch-up ever since. However, the fact that commute times have risen comes as no surprise to me or my fellow Western Sydney residents. The statement confirms reality. The imperative of improving people movement across Western Sydney is obvious, the benefits are easy to see, the economic priority is exceptionally pressing, especially when it addresses a key challenge confronting the nation, lifting productivity, which brings me to Deputy Governor Lowe's 2013 speech, Productivity and Infrastructure, where he observed there are significant opportunities for additional investment in transportation infrastructure and for using the existing infrastructure more efficiently. Doing so would promote productivity growth in Australia and contribute to advancement of the overall welfare of our citizens. And besides making the point that underinvestment in transport infrastructure affects housing affordability, Governor Lowe remarked, "I can't help but think that surely there are investments in transport infrastructure that would yield a social rate of return greater than the cost of financing." As a member of a federal Labor government, I was proud to see us not only lift infrastructure spending to record levels, but we improved decision-making processes and project governance. We balanced our spend across projects that would help private transport opportunity with projects boosting public transport capacity. Yet, in a few months, we've seen this government go backwards on these infrastructure priorities badly. Since this government's come into office, billions have whooshed out with little regard to planning or long-term thinking. In Western Sydney, for instance, the Abbott government committed nearly $2 billion supporting WestConnex, a project rightly drawing criticism for not living up to its intended objectives of taking motorists straight into Sydney CBD and ensuring the M5 actually delivers freight through to the port. Federal Labor committed to WestConnex on the basis the New South Wales government addressed these flaws, and the Abbott government hid those flaws under a pile of taxpayer cash. The Shadow Infrastructure Minister Anthony Albanese observed, "When governments spend billions of scarce public dollars on new roads or rail lines, they ought to be certain up front that they get it right and that the investment delivers on the desired outcome." Now, if you arm yourself with a calculator, a clutch of government press releases and Google Maps, you'll paint a mess of projects sprawling the country. A trail of zeros will cram your calculator screen, but amongst all that you won't find much cost-benefit analysis. And to make matters worse, they're watering down infrastructure governance, limiting Infrastructure Australia's board's capacity to independently determine priority orders of projects. And nothing better demonstrates the cavalier attitude of the government to infrastructure planning than Badgerys Creek Airport, and you won't hear the last three words roll off the Abbott government ministers' mouths because they refer to it as Sydney's second airport or Western Sydney's first airport. They're worried about this airport, and rightly so. That's why they don't call it Badgerys Creek Airport or the airport that dare not speak its name. It's why Deputy Prime Minister Warren Truss calls MP briefings on it but doesn't show up to lead the briefing. A couple of weeks ago, when the PM was brave enough to talk publicly about Badgerys, he made a telling slip, and he finally managed to mention Badgerys Creek Airport because he was addressing the Daily Telegraph's Champions of the West Award night. And of course, talking about Badgerys Creek in front of the Daily Telegraph is about as hard as driving an ice cream van through a sweaty neighbourhood. They've been feverishly campaigning for it. And during his speech, the PM slipped when he said, and I quote, "There shouldn't be burden without benefit." I repeat, burden without benefit, which says it all. At the Badgerys Creek compound, they chant about two benefits. The first is roads, 3 of them built around the airport, and the other's jobs, but they fail to mention detail. The roads have been described by the Assistant Minister for TAR, the member for Mayo, as Western Sydney's economic plan. 3 roads and an airport, presto, an economic plan. The lack of detail on one of the biggest road projects boasted by the government doesn't even have a completion date. In fact, it says it's just going to be completed before the airport's built. All spin, no substance. And for an airport that we're told is supposed to create 60,000 jobs and will only create 5. So it's clear that this government, when it comes to infrastructure, hasn't got a clue and hasn't got a sense of what it's going to be spending its money
Members'
on.
time.